I have a question about relationship, and not about romantic relationship, but relationship with parents. I'm in North Carolina because my parents are here, and it was an opportunity between jobs for me to spend some time with my parents, who are 84, 85. And because of my Abraham training and my metaphysical training, I thought I came here with a cocky attitude, thinking I can handle my father that I've not been able to handle previously. A better person, and I can be kind and gracious toward him. And I found myself in a soup of Fox TV news and anti-Obama talk and other things along that line that I won't go into. So it's challenging to me, and my parents have a house with a lower level, not an apartment, but I'm staying in the lower level. So when he says something negative, I excuse myself and go downstairs, and I'm trying to be loving and kind, and it's very hard work. It's the hardest job I've ever had in my life. And I'm wondering if you could give me some guidance.
Well, we just want to ask you some questions just to put this into perspective. Do you believe that when you made the decision to come into physical experience, that the instructions you gave whoever was setting it up, clean up all discord, so that when I get there, all I have to do is look around and I will feel good?
No, not at all.
Do you believe in conditional love? Do you believe that in order for you to be in alignment with who you are, everyone around you has to behave as your inner being would?
No.
Now, we worded that cleverly. From what you just said, and everyone relates, but from what you just said, it sounds like you think they should do the work in keeping you happy. Or at a minimum, they should stop doing the work that makes you unhappy.
I wrote down a quote that you gave us a couple of hours ago, and that you can't expect the other person to change for you to feel better, that you can feel better on your own without any change expected from the other person.
You see, it's worse with your parents than with anyone else for this reason. Remember the discussion earlier about the founders of this nation and the struggles and conflicts that they had been living, and all the aspirations and hopes and dreams that they had put into vibrational escrow. And then from a place of tuning in, they wrote documents based upon what was in the vibrational escrow, not based upon what was being lived. And then they and everyone since have more or less been aspiring to that alignment. So what happens when you are little? You want your parents to be wise. When they're not, you want them to be wise. When they are seeming unjust, you want them to be just. When they are confused, you want them to be clear. And without realizing it, every child creates perfect parents out of the soup of their reality. Without even realizing it, you've created the way you really want them to be. Fox News, that's way too far. You create them the way you want them to be. And so it's not up to them. This is the thing that's tricky. It's not up to them to live up to the reality that you have crafted. It's up to you to live up to the reality that you've crafted. In other words, the relationship that you have with your parents, it will be so liberating for you when you get this. You have created a version of you and your parents over here in your vibrational escrow. This is the version you must live up to. So what happens is they helped you create this, and now the way they are behaving is keeping you from being this. That's why it feels so big. That's why you in a sort of dramatic way talked about the perils of getting along with your dad. In other words, when someone has been a big catalyst in your expansion, then it's extra troubling when they continue to be that same catalyst and you're unable to focus around them and be what you've expanded to. We've had a discussion all day here today about conditional love, haven't we? In other words, of course it would be easier to be living with someone who you agree with on a lot of things. But it's not agreement with your parents that you're reaching for. It's agreement with you. And the behavior of your parents or what they think or say or believe has nothing to do with the agreement between you and you. You can focus around it. So, you be them, and we'll be the new and improved you. Okay. You be them, and we'll speak from your perspective in alignment with what's in your vibrational escrow. So give us an example of a theme that is taking place.
Well, I told my mother that I was going to write the shortest book in the world that would be written dialogue between father and daughter for a total of 1 week. It would be about 5 pages long, because the conversations don't go beyond 2 steps before they're abruptly cut off.
Let's take the 2 steps then.
Okay.
You be your father, or set it up in the way that you started, but get us into a conversation.
Can we listen to something else? Can we turn the TV off?
This is you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, honey, you're living with us in our house. Maybe you'd like to go find your own house where you can watch what you want.
End of conversation.
Well, we think he makes a good point. In other words, what you're saying is, I need to control your environment in order to feel good. And he gave up trying to please others long ago.
Definitely.
What else?
Why don't you get off the phone?
Who's saying that?
My father is saying that to me, because I want to be able to talk to someone, so I'll call my friends, and that's a lifelong pattern, father-daughter.
So whose telephone are you using?
My cell phone.
And he's within earshot of what you're saying?
But he knows that I'm on the phone.
So does he come to you while you're on the phone and tell you that? Or does he tell you that after you're no longer on the phone when you are together?
He makes comments like, well, you're always on the phone. And I can't make conversation with him, so...
Well, so you're always on the phone, and so you say, there's a big world out there, and I have so much to say. And he'll say, you're not kidding. But at least you'll be in agreement with each other.
I've sought out intentionally, what can I say to my father that we can agree on?
Nothing. But you're missing the point. You're outside the vortex. You see, so maybe you get in the vortex. We can feel that you want to. Maybe you're in the vortex and then he says something and you focus upon it so the vortex spits you out. So now you're out there with him trying to figure out how to make it work. Well, you can't make it work as long as you're outside the vortex. So this is the way this conversation is going between you and Abraham. You're saying, my father causes the vortex to keep spitting me out. And we're saying, well, find a way to get back in. And you say, well, I can get back in, but the vortex keeps spitting me out because of what's going on. And we say, you're giving too much attention and too much credit to your father. You are caring more about the relationship between you and him, at which you are failing, and not enough about the relationship between you and you, at which you are failing. And the relationship between you and you is the only one that matters. So what you want to ask yourself is, what would my inner being say to my father under this condition and under this condition? How does my inner being see my father? Do you think that your inner being thinks poorly of your father because he disagrees with you politically? Or do you think your inner being finds positive aspects of your father even when he watches Fox News?
He's easy to love when you're not with him.
Well, what that means is it's easier for you to focus yourself into alignment when he's not up close to you. But so you have 2 choices if you're going to be happy, because he's not going to change. So you have 2 choices, and we wouldn't encourage him to do so. Because if he were to stand on his head to try to please you, then you wouldn't learn anything about being in the vortex. You would just learn, observe, get other people to behave the way I want them to so that I can feel good. The whole world's running around trying to pull that one off, and no one's succeeding at that, you see. So So what we're encouraging you to do, you have two choices. You can either come into alignment by using the power of your mind, which will serve you enormously well relative to endless subjects, or you can go someplace where you don't see him. But if you find it hard to be in alignment with who you are because someone or something in your environment keeps getting your attention, then you have no place to go, because there's always going to be someone. Think about it. If it's not your father, then who is it? Now, we know your father's the hardest case because you care more. You've put more about your relationship into your escrow relative to this person than almost everyone else put together. But there's a pattern that goes on with all of you, where if it's not your father that is your reason, your excuse for not being in the vortex, then it's something else. Then it's Fox News, which you don't watch. So you say, well, I cannot watch Fox News and I'm not out of the vortex, but I can't not watch my father. Well, I can. I can go to the basement. I can banish myself. I can go someplace that I shouldn't have to go. And we say, you really only have two choices. Either physically remove yourself, which means you're always going to be on the run.
I live on the other side of the country.
You're always going to be on the run. But then there's always going to be another and another and another and another and another. So you get more and more cloistered. The answer to feeling good is not surrounding yourself with people who think exactly like you do. The answer to living happily ever after is letting diversity help you expand, and then lining up with your expansion, and then thanking them for the trouble that they gave you, which caused you to expand. That's really what you signed on for. And it's why the dynamics of this relationship exist at all. Esther had an interesting experience because she has not for years deliberately watched Fox News. She just finds it bumpy enough that it's not pleasant. She doesn't really want any news, but there are some who were beating the drum of her discontent for a while that seemed more pleasing to her. And let's just say that Fox News was not one of those. And then they were in a hotel or a country or a ship or somewhere where it was the only thing on television. So occasionally she would turn it on, and she was surprised to see how sincere they were in their what she considered to be bogus beliefs. But it shook her up in her understanding that many of the people that she was hearing who were on the other side of how she feels politically were making some sense. She could, if she listened hard enough, figure out where they were coming from. She found them to be personality-wise quite pleasing people. In other words, it was a good experience for her because it made her realize she was tuned in. Much of the time she was in alignment with us and observing something that wasn't taking her out of the vortex. Wouldn't that be a wonderful assignment? Watch Fox News and stay in your vortex. Because what would that mean? That would mean you would have to be looking no matter what side of the political aisle, or no matter what side of whatever religious persuasion you are standing on. That would mean that you would be seeing this experience, whatever you're focused upon, through the eyes of Source. It's going to shock you to realize that your inner being will not push against all of those people that you are pushing against.